I think I had to get cool with being cool with sex. I'm just talking, Justin, but like I felt like I'm sex negative, as we talked about. Like I'm like very much of a prude, and I think that's the great thing with this partnership with Justin is that he's like kind of like pushes the two of us to be like, no, like we can't, like this is, first of all, it's the promise of the show, but also it's really fun. Like we don't have to, these girls don't have to have the same picadillos we did about our bodies and openness, you know. I like that.
Yeah. And I think just like, I think sexuality is so intrinsic to like my experience as just a gay man. So like I've been that stereotypically gay guy at the brunch table with 12 women and there's no other men there. And like, I've always heard the sex stories that I think a lot of people are not privy to that feel like they should be on TV. And I think it's awesome that our show is like so sex positive and putting things out there and making things more comfortable. I was talking about this earlier, but one of the things that's really surprised me is like I've had a number of adults tell me that they watch the show with their like 14 and 15-year-old children. And at first I was like, whoa, that's not a thing I like accounted for creatively. I didn't see that coming. But we also, Mindy and I like are, you know, we're a little prudish, so we're tame in what we're putting out there. It's not explicit. It's not Euphoria, you know? So it's, although I'm sure those kids are also watching Euphoria because it's good and on the same network. But it's nice and surprising to think that it's allowing for conversations between parents and children too.
Absolutely. And just like different kinds of sex, different, you know, and I think that if we're able to go on this whole journey again, I look forward to exploring that question even more. What is sex outside of boom, boom, boom? Because there's so many other elements to it. And we have a show that has sex in the title. So it kind of, you know, we're lucky to have that liberty. In terms of feeling more comfortable with the sexual themes, I think the sexual scenes that we play on the show are actually quite safe. We see a lot of post-coital sex. We see tops on, you know, there's no objectification, I don't believe, of women on the show. I think that I have at least always felt very safe, and I've found it to be fun to kind of learn what is it to be playing this in a comedy, right? So we can't do it completely real. That's where like the intimacy coordinator, Kelly Flynn, is so great, because it's not just about, it's very much about making people feel safe on set, but it's not just about that. It's also like, yes, in real life, maybe your heads aren't as turned right to left, but on camera, it actually looks better. It looks more real. So those are like there are some technical aspects that get to it, but I shared an anecdote earlier that I thought was funny, which is like, now that we're back, like we did it already once, we were back another season, it's kind of like, okay, well now we have this scene, okay, we have to close set, and we're like more into it. And then I don't want to steal your story, but you said you had like an intimate scene and you guys didn't know each other's names, and so it was a little like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share it because Pauline wants me to say the story. That was a particular, that was funny because the person had just gotten cast and he's great in the role, and I was just meeting him and we were just learning each other's names, and we kept on forgetting, and we're literally having sex, and it's funny sex because this is a particular character that we try different angles and stuff like that, so it's ridiculous, and then after cut it's like, sorry, what's your name again, can you do this? So that was really funny.
Yeah. The funny thing to me is like, I only filmed one with a guy last year. It's the sweetest thing in the whole wide world. But I felt so much more comfortable filming intimate scenes this year just because I was with girls, and I was like, woo, thank God. I was like, this is so much easier. I was like, which says more about, like, you know, you get it.
Yeah,
but,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, but I remember like last year being like,
well, also I think the thing last year was that like we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what they would be like. We didn't know if we would feel comfortable, if we would feel weird, and like obviously all of our like bad ideas were demystified and like everything was fine and great, and so that kind of unveiled the world of like, oh, this is safe. And we also have an intimacy coordinator at all times, Kelly Flynn, and she's great, and we just like doesn't feel like you're doing anything but a normal scene, which sounds weird. You're just wearing less clothes, but it just feels like every other thing. It doesn't feel like a thing.
100%. It just made me closer with people, actually.
I mean, I think just seeing it is helpful, and it's seeing it in a healthy way and not a hypersexualized kind of way, I think is great. And I personally love that because I grew up watching shows that kind of sex was like hot, heavy sex. Like when I was a kid, I thought that was all sex was, you know what I mean? And so I didn't really see the other side of sex until I started having sex. And I was like, wait, it's not like that at all, you know? So it's nice to be a different approach to that, to sexuality and to sex. And there are a lot of shows doing it now on TV, but I'm glad to be one of them. I feel like we show a wide variety of sexual experiences and preferences. And
it's also nice, like we all support each other in our like,
yeah, like if you're comfortable tits out, like do that, girl. If you're comfortable having raunchy, crazy sex, do that.
The only time we disapprove is when it gets just so incredibly loud and grotesque, and that I will stand by.